Both players 8 and 1 from yesterday. So looking to put 4 more wins over the course of today. Should get them into day 2. Luis starts out on Scalding Tarn. And now he knows what his opponent's up to. It's Urza's Mine Chromatic Star for Corey Chrisman.
As soon as you see that first Urza land as a control deck, your heart sinks just a little bit. You start thinking about what your sideboard plan's going to be.
Now, Luis does have 3 copies of Young Pyromancer in the main, so maybe he can have an aggressive start. We do see he has one on turn 2.
Yeah, that's things are going perfectly on his side so far. The concern is if turn 3 Tron is happening, there's really not much that's going to be enough. And oh wow.
Turn 3 Tron is happening. Corey Chrisman cracks Chromatic Star to make green mana, plays Urza's Tower, Sylvan Scries for Power Plant. He'll have the 7 mana on turn 3.
About average for Tron.
And if you aren't familiar with Grixis control, Luis's list has very little, has actually no counter magic in the main. It's all discard. He's playing 4 Inquisition of Kozilek's, but then he has Terminates, Dreadbores,
so
Lightning Bolts.
If you have discard over counter magic, in this matchup it needs to be Thoughtseize. Inquisition isn't going to hit any of the business spells. What you want to be doing is if the turn 3 play is, say, Karn or Wurmcoil Engine, if you have a mana leak, you're still in okay shape. It's the Urza's Tower on turn 4 Ulamog that really breaks you.
All right, so we have a swing for 2 from Luis, and then Liliana, the Last Hope. So this is the Planeswalker from Eldritch Moon. Not the biggest all-star in this matchup. He's going to go straight for that -2 ability. So he puts the top 2 cards of his library in his graveyard, then may return a creature card from graveyard to hand. Does not look like he had one, though. So Liliana, despite being a really impressive card, not doing much on that turn.
Yeah, Luis is showing Corey which cards he's going to be boarding out.
Well, Corey makes Tron, but doesn't look like he has anything at the start. Taps Power Plant for Chromatic Star, draws, but uses the remaining 6 mana to play a Wurmcoil Engine.
Hardly anything. Just a Wurmcoil Engine.
There was a chance he didn't have something. It wasn't Karn. That was good.
Yeah, and Liliana gets to -2/-1 the Wurmcoil Engine, a mere 4/5.
Yeah. Death Touch Lifelink. And this is the issue, right? Corey's still at a healthy 18.
Yeah, and this is the kind of stuff that you need to be ahead of. This is why I'm biased towards Delver's Secrets. This is why the Young Pyromancer was so important. But now that the Wurmcoil Engine is on the table, this is really bad news for the Grixis deck. No matter what your configuration looks like, as soon as that thing starts attacking, you're in a lot of trouble.
Now, on Corey's last turn, he did not play a land, so he still has all 3 Tron pieces, but no source of colored mana.
Yeah, gonna have to peel some stars and spheres. Usually not a big problem for Tron. Certainly once you already have one of your haymakers online.
We have a copy of Tassiger the Golden Fang from Luis, but can't attack through that Wurmcoil Engine, so he'll just pass. So we go back to Corey Chrisman. That Wurmcoil Engine, Liliana, will stay a 4/5 all the way until Luis's last turn. Liliana's ability will take care of that. Still pretty potent, though.
Yeah, and it does have Death Touch, so the Tassiger can't just bounce off of it. I also believe that I've spotted an Ulamog in Corey's hand. As soon as that's cast, this game is realistically just over.
Yeah, Corey plays a Power Plant that turn to bring him up to 9 mana. Uses 3 of it to play Oblivion Stone and leaves 6 up, so he can crack that immediately as he passes the turn back to Alfonso.
Yeah, and no matter how many tokens Luis is able to make with this Young Pyromancer, that O-Stone's just going to take care of all of them.
Steam Vents untapped brings Luis to 15. It does look like Chrisman's next turn is going to be Sanctum of Ugin and Ulamog cracking the Sanctum.
That's a pretty good turn.
Yeah, well, there's just not very many ways that Luis can interact with that.
No.
He's had no counter spells in the main.
Well, no counter spells. Often enough that Ulamog trigger is just game ending on its own. And then if you have no way to deal with the body on top of it, that's for sure going to end the game.
So -2 is the Liliana. Gets 2 cards in the graveyard. Right now where we are is after that -2. He's going to, so he activates Tasigur. Oh, I got it. So he's activating Tasigur with the Liliana trigger on the stack. So the Tasigur ability resolves, he'll get the Lightning Bolt. So, okay. So he activated Liliana -2, left that trigger on the stack, then activated Tasigur in response, got 2 cards, milled 2. Corey gave him the Lightning Bolt. Luis Lightning Bolted his own Young Pyromancer, and then the Liliana trigger meant he got to put... Now the Liliana trigger is going to resolve. He'll mill 2 and get a creature back. So he mills 2, picks the creature, Young Pyromancer, and puts it in his hand. Some fancy footwork from Luis, but I'm not entirely sure what it does.
So if the Oblivion Stone's activated and the Liliana and the Pyromancer are still on the table, then you just lose both of them. Now, using this sequencing this way, it looks very strange, but it's the difference between having those 2 permanents destroyed and having one of them in your hand.
Okay. So now if Chrisman cracks the Oblivion Stone, Luis gets to recast the Young Pyromancer.
Right. It's likely not going to be enough, but it is a better position than if he just lets the Oblivion Stone go off.
Yeah, and none of this may matter. Wurmcoil Engine got a Fate counter off Oblivion Stone, swung, and then when Chrisman made the play of Sanctum of Ugin into Ulamog, that was all Luis needed to see. He scoops up the cards, and we will move on to Game 2.
Yep, and that's about how any of these 3-color decks against Tron, especially the turn 3 natural Tron, that's how those games are going to go.
Well, we will go ahead and look at the sideboards for the 2 players here. Starting with Luis Alfonso, as it's really on him to change this matchup.
Yep.
He's got a copy of Anger of the Gods, a Grim Lavamancer, 2 Nihil Spellbombs, a Shriekmaw, 3 Molten Rains, an Izzet Staticaster, 2 Negates, a Dispel, a Thoughtseize, and 2 Engineered Explosives.
3 Molten Rains, great. You can, on the play especially, you can start breaking up Tron, so that's really where you want to be. The Thoughtseize is a clear upgrade to a lot of the cards in the deck. We saw Liliana not be very impressive in this matchup. Probably wishing he had some number of those in the main deck over the Inquisition of Kozilek. Inquisition does play here. You can hit Sylvan Scrying. On the play, you can hit Expedition Map, but the Thoughtseize is actually going to take Haymakers, so that's really good. And I like 2 copies in Negate as well. Corey's going to be casting a lot of spells, and some of his Haymakers can be hit by Negate, say Karn Liberated, Ugin the Spirit Dragon.
Sure, and those cards are really important in the matchup, too. Corey Chrisman's side, a lot of his sideboard is devoted to beating a lot of different linear decks. Nature's Claim, Warping Whale, Thragtusk, Sudden Shock, Lightning Bolt, Relic of Progenitus, Grafdigger's Cage, and Spellskate.
Relic Progenitus is always going to replace itself, and there's a decent amount of things happening with the graveyard on Alfonso's deck, so that one's probably coming in. Lightning Bolt. So from the texture of this game, with Alfonso playing turn 2 Young Pyromancer and Liliana the Last Hope, Corey probably doesn't know whether or not Alfonso has Delvers in his deck. So he might be thinking he's actually playing against a Delver strategy.
Yeah, when I see Young Pyromancer, Delver's usually side by side with it.
Right, so for that reason, Sudden Shock and Warping Whale, they look pretty attractive. They could be coming in here. They might not have the greatest effect, but specifically, if Alfonso has these Young Pyromancer starts, which are really what he needs to actually win this game, those cards are going to be great. Whether or not they even match up over the deck on the whole the best.
So for whether you're watching us over on Star City Games or on twitch.tv, come on into the feature match area. We're going to be here all weekend and broadcasting in both places. We have our Twitch subscription program, which you haven't seen that since we've started Season 2 here on the SCG Tour. First of all, if you subscribe, you get exclusive subscriber-only chat, custom emoticons in the chat. Also, we debuted Deciding the Quarterfinals. So between round 15, so midday here, and our elimination rounds, the quarterfinals, subscribers will be able to vote on what players and what decks they want to see. So a lot to do over at the Twitch subscription, just twitch.tv/SCGLive.
We're, as we usually do in Modern, pretty diverse field. I imagine a pretty diverse top 8, so that quarterfinal voting is really cool. You get to pick the matchup that you want to see.
Yeah. Love to see Luis Alfonso there. This Grixis deck, really interesting. So Luis, this is somewhat of a hometown event for him. He's from Bronx, New York, so makes his way upstate. The 23-year-old has 2 open top 8s. Large Chipotle fan. Who isn't, though, right?
I think we should get his Chiptopia status on the slide.
We need to confirm just
so
how
personally,
much of a Chipotle fan?
I got hot in July, and I'm at 9 visits in August. And if he's not at least there, remove Chipotle Fanatic from that slide.
Now, did you go get a second card so you could be double hot?
No,
Okay.
I'm not that big. If he has that, then remove it from my slide.
Luis starts out on Basic Island. Corey Chrisman plays a Chromatic Sphere, and we see an end-step Thought Scar from Luis, milling Kolaghan's Command and Serum Visions. And now from Luis, I'm really into this deck. Jace Vern's Prodigy is turn 2 play.
Yeah, this is a really cool card. It's kind of like extra Snapcaster Mages in Modern. Has to live, but this is a matchup where it's very likely to.
Back to Chrisman, plays his second Tron piece and just says go. With this kind of start from Chrisman, I would, if I'm in Luis's seat, I somewhat expect that Chrisman just had natural Tron in the opening.
I'm very concerned about the next turn.
Chrisman has played no Stirrings, no Sylvan Scryings, yet he kept this hand. Why did he keep it?
If I'm Alfonso, I hope that I'm casting Thoughtseize, flipping Jace, and casting Thoughtseize again if there's 2 Haymakers. That's what I want this turn to look like.
I also want to rewrite the text on Thoughtseize that says, I can take Urza's Tower. You're right, this is a fetch land from Luis. We're on his 3rd turn. It puts a 4th card into his graveyard, so when he taps this Jace Vern's Prodigy, it will flip. Gets a 3rd land, goes to 15. No counter magic in the main or sideboard for Luis, so he can't. It's going to be hard for him, outside of 2 copies of Negate. It's going to be very hard for him to sit back on, say, a Mana Leak.
Yep, his deck primarily plays at sorcery speed.
And how about this? He goes to tap Jace to try to make the Planeswalker, and Luis will Warping Wail it. Or Corey Chrisman Warping Wails it. This forces the Negate out of Luis's hand, but now the shields are down for something like Karn Liberated.
Yeah, I'm thinking this was a very aggressive Negate. If Karn happens next turn, he's going to be really wishing he did not cast that spell.
Discards a land, flips the Jace. I mean, if the Jace is his whole game plan, he's going to have to do that, though, right?
If the Jace is his whole game plan, he's going to lose.
Jace will -3 on Serum Visions, and now he flashes it back from the graveyard, drawing 1, scrying 2. The 3 lands are tapped, though. Shields are going to be down going into Chrisman's 3rd turn. Luis is hoping that the dreaded Tron doesn't just show up here.
Maybe he misclicked and wanted to mulligan.
Oh, no. I mean, Luis's hand actually turn 1 Serum Visions, turn 2 Jace with a Negate. That's a huge keep for him.
Yeah, definitely. He's playing a deck that is just strategically unfavored, and Serum Visions and Jace give him card selection. If he found the turn 3 Molten Rain, it would have been very good.
Urza's Tower, Karn, it's exactly what Luis did not want to see. And you see Chrisman immediately starts taking up the Karn. It goes to 10 loyalty as it exiles a card from Luis's hand.
Luis does have a copy of Dreadbore. If he has that in his hand, that would be big.
He'll go with Young Pyromancer. Not exactly the Dreadbore. Then cast Serum Visions, get an Elemental token.
Specifically, the Karn Plus, if he had the Dreadbore, wouldn't be a terrible sequence of events for him.
And here's a copy of Molten Rain off the Serum Visions.
It's a little late, but he'll keep it.
And Corey pluses the Karn there out of respect for Lightning Bolt.
Yeah.
Jace ticks up to 3. Back to Corey. And he's not done. Looking at his hand here, he's got more Haymakers. He's got Oblivion Stone, Wurmcoil Engine, both hanging out.
He's got some good stuff. Some question over what exactly he wants to do with Karn here.
It's going to -3, taking care of Young Pyromancer. In response, Luis will Lightning Bolt the Karn, getting a 2nd Elemental token, but then the Pyromancer is killed. That Pyromancer will be moved to exile in just a second here. It was. Oh, Luis. Hold on. Chrisman, though, not done on that turn. He's going to go ahead and Wurmcoil Engine before passing back to Luis. And cast Relic of Progenitus off the Urza's Tower, so lots of action from Chrisman.
And Alfonso knows that his draw step is Molten Rain this turn, and there's already a lot of stuff on the table he's going to have trouble dealing with.
And a big play, Chrisman exiling away Luis's graveyard. So if that hadn't happened, Luis, via the Jace and the Molten Rain, could have taken care of Karn. But now he's going to be some 2 damage short.
Well, he still has 2 red sources. He can destroy a land. Of course, he can't break through the Wurmcoil Engine.
Right, the Wurmcoil Engine playing some defense for Karn Liberated.
He could use the Jace to get Lightning Bolt. He's still under the gun of the Wurmcoil Engine, but it would be something.
A draw was Molten Rain. He does have double red. So that's an option here. It'll take Corey off of Tron. Thought sees the play from Luis Alfonso. He sees another Karn, another Wurmcoil, and Ulamog. Whew. Well, if Luis turns off Tron, Corey's hand is uncastable until he finds that Tron piece again. See 2 mines and a power plant, along with 1 tower. So if Luis hits either the power plant or the tower, Corey will be down to 3 mana.
Yep. The Wurmcoil is the most immediately castable card. I assume that that's what you want to take from this hand. Any of these haymakers can realistically end the game. The Wurmcoil is the one he's most likely to cast without actually getting back to Tron.
Right. And now here's Molten Rain. It'll hit the tower. Chrisman will lose his land. 2 damage goes at Karn. It's now down to 2 loyalty. But the Wurmcoil Engine is doing defense for Karn, so Luis cannot attack down Karn with those elemental tokens.
Yep. It's a heck of a blocker.
Chrisman will rebuild.
I think he picked up an Ancient Stirrings, no green mana to use that one.
Karn will exile away the last card in Luis's hand.
And now with the Karn safely at 6 loyalty, the Wurmcoil is free to attack. I like this. In Corey's position, you know, his hand is completely uncastable. So if he can close the game with this Wurmcoil Engine and Karn he already has, he should go for it.
So that last, actually, we need to check here. That last card in Luis's hand was a Lightning Bolt, but he only had double red instead of triple red. Which is why he wasn't able to bolt down the Karn to finish the turn.
Not ideal.
All right, we go back to Luis's turn. He will give flashback to the Molten Rain, take care of Urza's power plant, 2 damage to Karn. And he'll Inquisition Corey Chrisman, taking the Ancient Stirrings.
Yeah, if Corey were to peel a Grove of the Burn Willows or Forest this turn, that could be significant. Though Alfonso empty-handed at this point.
Yeah, and it feels we're still just looking at Dreadbore or something from Luis to get this Karn off the table. Wurmcoil Engine will attack at Jace. Luis will allow it, so Jace down.
The Dreadbore is a clean answer to Karn, but there's no clean answer to the Wurmcoil Engine. That one's going to be a slog.
Karn will plus up to 8 loyalty. Karn, they're just the most loyal of Planeswalkers. It's so hard to deal with to kill using damage. Alfonso Thought Scours himself, casts Serum Visions. Finds Young Pyromancer and land on top. He wants neither. They both go to the bottom of the deck. He's got to know that if he doesn't play this card, Karn's going to take it.
Right. There's no reason for Karn to go after lands or that elemental token.
Luis, no attack, just passes. Karn, up to 12. Luis will flash Snapcaster Mage into play in response.
Can't Karn this one.
And the elemental blocks Wurmcoil Engine. Luis will stay at 13, but Chrisman moving up to 38. Here's Thought Scour from Luis. There's that Bedlam Reveler. That one's in the graveyard now.
That would have presumably been a good top deck.
And he draws into Young Pyromancer. That will be his play for the turn. Snapcaster Mage hits Karn Liberated down to 10 loyalties. We're back to Chrisman. Looks like Grove of the Burn Willows. So now his mana starting to reassemble. Exiles away the Pyromancer. Hits in with the Wurmcoil. Luis is down to 7. And Chrisman is going to work. Here's the Grove of the Burn Willows. That's land 5. He can make green off it, and now he's going to cast Ancient Stirrings.
And now things are becoming completely out of control. There was a period where Dreadbore, some runner interaction with the Wurmcoil would have been fairly good, but as the mana gets built up, he has access to green mana, he can use his Ancient Stirrings with Sylvan Scrying to rebuild Tron. He still has a couple Haymakers left over in his hand.
Yeah, he found a Chromatic Sphere off the Stirrings. Drew a card. Has not rebuilt Tron just yet, but may not even need to cast another spell. The Wurmcoil plus Karn that he got down before the Molten Rains has carried him through this game.
Yep. It doesn't take much when your deck goes this much bigger than the opposition.
And Ulamog, for the second game in a row, will get the concession from Luis. So Corey Chrisman, Green-Red Tron, will win his first match of the day.